I forgot Ohio State players in that tattoo scandal actually traded their gold pants for tattoos. What a low view or IQ from each of those players. What a low view of the history and tradition for your program. You finally beat Michigan. That time it was pretty regular, yes, but you're trading history for a tattoo. What the fuck? Um, but I was going to talk about Michigan's running backs in recent years. So that's what we're going to do here. And the number one running back in the country, Savion Hyder, committed to the University of Michigan, of course. But first, some sad news that I have heard. Andrew Babalola, the five-star freshman tackle, has apparently suffered some kind of knee injury, and he is possibly out for the remainder of the season. So that's not good for the offensive lineup this season. It's Michigan's first severe injury so far that I know of that hurts a position that is as thin as it is. But that just means that we have to hope that sophomore Evan Link and sophomore Andrew Sprague are improved from last season and are the starters they could be and are resilient, because we cannot have them get injured in their tackle positions for this offensive line. Until someone else steps up, of course, we have plenty of people in the offensive line that have the capability of being a great offensive lineman. So we'll see, but them two have to hold the fort for a little while because we lost a guy apparently. So the offensive line could be better than last year, but it took a hit. We shall see. I want to talk about the run game in this video. Running back duos throughout the past recent years of Michigan football. And then I want to talk about who starts at running back for Michigan. And then Michigan's track record. We'll go through that. 1,000-yard rushers or close, and NFL draft packs in the recent history, the last 4 seasons. So let's start with the year-by-year result of running backs for the last 4 years. I know Michigan might have the greatest history of running backs in the country, but I want to talk just about the recent success here of the players. You have to cut it off somewhere. So last year, in 2024, Donovan Edwards was on the cover of EA's college football game, even though I thought Kalel Mullings should have started every game last season, and it took a while for the coaches to realize that, but they finally did, because he was tough, he was heavy, he was a battering ram, and it turned out that Michigan had no passing game, so Mullings had the biggest impact on the field last year for Michigan's offense by far. Even though Edwards had big games versus big teams, the consistent force was the battering ram, the thunder, as people like to say, and it was Kalel Mullings. He was a senior last year at 6'2", 233 pounds, finished the season with more carries, yards, average attempt, and touchdowns than Donovan Edwards. Both Edwards and Mullings sat out the bowl game last season, but Mullings had 185 carries for 948 yards, almost 1,000, 5.1 average, 12 rushing touchdowns. Donovan Edwards last season had 128 carries, 400 for 589 yards. That's a 4.6 average, and he had 4 rushing touchdowns. But he had 18 receptions in a terribly run offense, to be fair. But he only had a 4.6 average per reception. It was a struggle last year for Michigan all the way around on the offense. But the double-headed monster at the position has to continue to live, and it did continue to live with these two prolific players as they are both in the NFL now. Let's look at 2023 now, when Michigan won the national championship. In 2023, Blake the Great Corum, had 258 carries for 1,245 yards. That's a 4.8 average. He had 27, count them, 27 rushing touchdowns. Yes, rushing touchdowns. Donovan Edwards had 119 carries for a 4.2 average and 5 rushing touchdowns and 2 long runs versus Ohio State in critical early moments, and then versus Washington in the national championship game early as well. Then there was Mullings that season, who had 36 carries for 222 yards, a 6.2 average, and a rushing touchdown. So I knew coming out 2023, Mullings had to have been the guy, and he wasn't early. And the quarterback situation was not good either. But we're talking running backs here, and there's some history going back. All these guys are great. The duos. Michigan has 2 that they trust at any time on the field. And that's why running backs like Savion Hyder want to come to Michigan. In 2022, Blake Corum had 247 carries for 1,463 yards. That's a 5.9 average per rush. And he had 18 rushing touchdowns. Unfortunately for Corum that year, though he had the heart of a lion, was injured late in the season, which cost him a Heisman Trophy, in my opinion, because Michigan was well on its way to a national title if he was not hurt in that season. He missed basically the whole game versus Ohio State. That's where he got hurt, which is a shame because he needed that for the Heisman moment. But we didn't need him for Ohio State. We beat them. But we needed him for TCU in that playoff game where he was not available. Corum leads the University of Michigan in career rushing touchdowns. Donovan Edwards in 2022 was the Lightning again. He had 140 carries this year for 991 yards. That was a 7.1 average, and that's why we're so excited about this guy. 7 rushing touchdowns, and he had 200 yards receiving and 2 receiving touchdowns. The Don was promising, and he did what he could for Michigan without ever being the guy. But man, we will remember him. I'm glad he came and he stuck with Michigan because this position absolutely needs a Robin or a second choice all the time, especially at Michigan where they run the ball constantly. So thank you, Don. C.J. Stokes also in 2022 had 55 carries for 273 yards. That's a 5-yard average. And he had a touchdown this year. And then he transferred after that season. So he was out. But hey, we were grooming another guy. There's always 3 that we want to be grooming at all times here, at least. In 2021, Hassan Haskins, remember him? Man, he was great. 6'2", 228 pounds, had 270 carries for 1,000 327 yards, a 4.9 average, and he had 20 rushing touchdowns, which was a Michigan record at the time until Blake Corum shattered it with his 27 touchdowns. Speaking of Blake Corum, he had 144 yards and for 144 carries for 952 yards in this season as well. 6.6 average, 11 rushing touchdowns in this season. And the young Donovan Edwards had 35 carries for 174 yards, a 5-yard average, and 3 rushing touchdowns as a freshman. So you see how we're just building this. But now, in 2025, all of those players are gone now to the NFL. But Michigan has some buds growing. They always did. Based off last year's results, many people believe that Justice Haynes is going to get the start. The problem is he has to go up against Jordan Marshall, who has been with the program and helped beat Justice Haynes' Alabama team in the bowl game last year with 23 carries for 100 yards, 4.3 yard average. So I think, I'll get to Justice Haynes comes from Alabama and had 79 carries for 448 yards and 7 rushing touchdowns last season in limited time. They had two other running backs that they like to trot out there on the field as well. But he also had 99 yards receiving in 2024. I think Jordan Marshall is more of the bruiser along the likes of Haskins, Mullings, and Corum. And so I believe I would give him the start to soften up a defense. Then alternate them throughout each game, of course, have different, maybe you have the same formations, but you put them in there. You got to have all kinds of different versatility in today's day and age in college football offenses. You have to not wear them out because you could go 17 games deep now. Marshall's my battering ram. He's the starter. I would basically play him 50-50 though. So will it be another dynamic duo for Michigan's backfield in 2025? 2026 might be these two coming back plus Savion Hyder. But I'm talking about this season. Can we have that dynamic duo yet again? And I think yes, because this season the pressure will be off of the running game, maybe because we have a capable quarterback in Bryce Underwood in the backfield behind them. So there you go. What do you think? Let me know. Can the dominance in the running back room continue for Michigan football? Let me know in the comments below. Have a great day out there, everybody. But go blue, everybody.